Gentlemen, welcome to the St. Tammany Parish Planning Commission meeting of March the 18th. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Seeger?
Here.
Commissioner Arsmont?
Here.
Commissioner McGinnis? Here. Commissioner Truxillo?
Here.
Commissioner Doherty?
Here.
Commissioner Horn?
Here.
Commissioner Gaines?
Here.
Commissioner Crawford?
Here.
Commissioner Narcisse? Commissioner Troncoso?
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Here.
Commissioner Accardo? Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, public announcements. Please silence all phones and electronic devices. Appeals. If you disagree with a decision the commission makes, you have the right to appeal it to the council, and appeal cards are on the railing there to the right. Speaker cards, if you wish to speak on an item, you must complete a speaker card, and those are over on the railing to the right also. Public speaking, 10 minutes each side, 5 minutes for rebuttal. You can exit the building if your case has been heard, or you're welcome to stay in the building. We're not going to have folks outside tonight, which is good. Please rise for the invocation by Commissioner Seeger and the pledge by Commissioner Crawford.
Heavenly Father, before we attempt any great or important thing, remind us that we need to invoke your blessings. We thank you for the life itself and for the blessings of being residents of St. Tammany Parish. Lord, let us slow down so that we can enjoy the beauty of nature, the azaleas, wisteria, mayhaw, as they spring forth and blossom. We sincerely desire to make our little part of heaven on earth a better place by us being here and serving the public in a truthful and honest manner, guided as always by your wisdom and knowledge. Thanks be to you for the citizens, employees, elected officials of our parish. Thank you for the linemen and the first responders who serve our parish. May your blessings rest upon this commission as we strive to do your will and serve the best interests of our community in a fair and honest way, walking uprightly all the way. Amen.
Amen. All right, on your agendas there was election of officers, and that's not ready to go forward yet, so we'll skip that. Approval of the March 5th meeting minutes. Commissioner Crawford.
Motion to accept the minutes as written.
All right, Commissioner Gaines.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gaines. Please vote.
The motion to approve the March minutes is approved.
Request for postponement, Ms. Helen. Okay, I think you're on now.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have a request, item number 6 on page 2. Under final subdivision review, 2024-3720 FB for Deer Crossing subdivision, and Mr. Paul Marone is here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, let me catch up with you a minute.
Item number 6 on page 2.
Okay. Mr. Morone, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Paul Maroon on behalf of Deer Crossing LLC. We are requesting that you postpone this until your next meeting. Well, most, if not all, of the field work is done. There are a few items on the staff's punch list that we really need to have time to sit down with the staff to make sure that we're on the same page with them and we're able to knock these items out. Been in touch with the staff. We have a meeting set for later this week. So I have every confidence that we'll have this finished by next month, but there were just a few questions and clarifications we needed. So that's 1 month would give us more than adequate time. So we ask for your consideration of tabling it until your next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I've got Commissioner Narcisse.
Motion to postpone to the next meeting?
Motion by Commissioner Narcisse to postpone till next month. Commissioner Crawford.
Second the motion?
Second by Commissioner Crawford. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to postpone for 1 month has passed.
Helen, do you have any other ones? Okay. All right, we'll go back to the front of the agenda. Revocation. First one is REV 24-03-001. The revocation of an unopened portion of 6th Avenue, 7th Avenue, 8th Avenue, 7th Street, located east of 6th Street, south of Louisiana Highway 435, in the Pele First Subdivision, as delineated on map 169B, Ward 10, District 6. Applicant is Russell Armstrong. Parish Council District Representatives, Honorable Cheryl Tanner. Staff?
The petition's requested to revoke several portions of right-of-way, and the petitioners plan to assimilate the unopened portions of the 4th Street right-of-ways into their adjacent properties in order to create 2 large lots. And the staff has no objections.
Okay. Is Mr. Armstrong here?
Yeah.
Please come to the mic. Pardon?
I'm a co-applicant.
Okay. I need one of you to come to the mic.
Mr. Armstrong's a little hard of hearing.
Yeah, I am too. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
You are,
I'm Ricky Lang.
you're who?
Lang, L-A-N-G. I'm Mr. Lang.
Okay.
Co-applicant. Raymond Lang.
All right, then you have any comments other than the staff report?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Is anyone in the audience against this revocation? Anyone in the audience for it? I want to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
Just have one quick question for staff. It says the zoning, oh, I see, the surrounding zoning is A2 and A4. Okay, what is the current zoning of this property, do we know?
Well,
The adjacent property?
I think since it's the right-of-way, I guess technically doesn't
Yeah.
have a.
Okay, so around it is A2 and A4?
Yes.
Okay, very good. I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve. Commissioner Gaines.
A second.
Second by Commissioner Gaines. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to approve is passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
All right, we go to minor subdivision review. All right, this is case 2024-3718-MSP, minor subdivision of tract 1A into tracts 1A1 and 1A2. Owner and representative is AHAV Ranch LLC, Matthew Kutchner. The surveyor is J.V. Burks and Associates. Parish Council District Representative is Honorable Joe M. Posada. General location, the property is located on the west side of Equina Lane, south of Little Dixie Ranch Road, Lacombe, Ward 7, District 7. Staff?
The applicant is requesting to create two parcels from the existing 10.913 acres. The minor subdivision request requires a public hearing due to Track A1 was previously part of a minor subdivision approved in March 2021, and the request shall be subject to items 1 to 6 on your staff report.
Okay. Mr. Kutchner? Matthew Kutchner. Well, Mr. Kutchner's not here. Weldon, are you familiar with this? Pull your mic around some.
Okay, is that better? Okay. Yeah, I think so. Is this, staff, is this the same one that they had a private road last time and they had the 5 parcels on the private road that we approved?
That's correct. However, Equitana Road lane has been taken into the maintenance system now.
Okay.
It's been constructed up to parish standard, taken into the maintenance system, and now they're coming back. As you can see on an aerial, there are 2 residences on this property, so they're just trying to split the
Trying to
property.
split it, yeah. Yeah, I'm familiar with the property, and I don't have a problem with it. They're just taking existing land and putting a line down the middle. So I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve. Commissioner McInnes.
I second that.
Second by Commissioner McInnes. Commissioner Troncoso.
Just a question, Helen, is Equitana Lane, it's a public right-of-way?
That's correct. Originally, it was a minor subdivision, and the owner constructed it up to parish standards. It was inspected, accepted by the parish, and now it's part of the maintenance system.
Okay, I was just looking at it on Google Earth, and it's pretty trashed up, really bad. It's parking, there's trailers parked on the street all along there, because it goes to nowhere. It goes to a cul-de-sac, but kind of like a cul-de-sac.
That's not normally what's out there. It's normally very well kept.
Do you have Google Earth? Take a look at it. I can make a picture. It's a parking lot, is what it is.
Maybe the Google Earth shows when it was under construction.
No,
No?
no, it wasn't under construction. I'm just making a note on it. I'm just bringing that up. There's trailers and everything. I'll send you a picture. You can
Okay.
take a look
Sounds
at it
great.
and see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Crawford. Did I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Troncoso.
Miss McGinnis seconded.
Pardon?
Miss McGinnis, Commissioner McGinnis seconded.
I don't see a, who wants to speak?
She had already seconded.
Oh, okay. All right. So let me turn that one off, and then all right, we're ready to vote. Please vote.
The motion to approve is passed.
All right. We go to item 2, which is case 2024-3728-MSP, a minor subdivision of parcel A3 into parcel A3-1 and A3-2. Owner and representative is Walima L. Brooks. Land Surveying LLC is a surveyor. Parish Council District Representative, Honorable Martha Casabon. General location, property located on the west side of Louisiana Highway 25, south of Teresa Nav Road, Folsom, Ward 2, District 3. Staff?
The applicant is requesting to create 2 parcels from a 23-acre parcel. The minor subdivision request requires a public hearing due to parcel A3 was previously part of a minor subdivision approved in January 2022. Parcels A3-1 and A3-2 are proposed to be accessed from a private drive, and requesting a waiver to construct the 35-foot access drive or right-of-way and the required drainage prior to building permits being issued on parcels A3-1 and A3-2 instead of prior to the plat being recorded. And the request shall be subject to items 1 to 5 enumerated on the staff report.
Thank you. Is Ms. Brooks here? All right. So we can, John, you're familiar with it apparently?
It's
Okay. Commissioner Gaines?
It's a big piece of land. They're dividing into 2 smaller pieces of land and putting a private drive to it. It's pretty simple.
Okay. You got your mic around where you can?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's just a large piece of land off Highway 25. There's very few homes. This is all commensurate with the size of the properties out there. So it's I have no problem with it.
Okay. Commissioner McInnes?
Was that a motion,
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, I didn't know if he was opening enough to.
Oh, okay.
Subject to the waiver.
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve, subject to the waiver. With the waiver.
With the waivers.
And I'll second,
Okay.
subject to the waiver.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
The motion to approve with the waivers is passed.
Thank you. All right, re-subdivision review. This is case 2024-3719-MRP. Re-subdivision of lots 5 and 6 into lot 5A I-59 Commercial Park. Owner and representative is Keiko Incorporated, Noel Burris III. Surveyor is J.V. Burke and Associates. Parish Council District Representative is David Kugel. General location, the property is located at the end of Commercial Drive, northeast of I-59 Service Road, Pearl River, Ward 8, District 9. Staff?
The applicant is requesting to create 1 lot being proposed to be a lot 5A from existing lot 5 and 6 in I-59 Commercial Park subdivision. As stated in the restrictive covenants of the approved plat, no lot shall be further re-subdivided without approval from the Planning Commission, and the request shall be subject to items 1 and 2.
Okay. Is Mr. Burris here? Good evening. You have anything to add to the staff report?
No, sir.
My goodness, this is going too fast. All right.
This is weird.
Anyone in the audience in favor of this? Anyone against? Close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this. I'm trying to figure out where it is exactly. Is this on Highway 11 past,
No, this is on right off the service road, if you know where North Shore Trailers
Yeah, by the
is.
trailer place?
Before you get
Okay.
to North Shore's trailer, they got
Oh,
crayon case, you take a
In
right.
that curve, okay.
Yeah.
Got it, okay. I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve. Commissioner McInnes?
I didn't,
Well, I
But
don't
I'm-
think I cleared it.
I'm happy to second that.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Troncoso.
I'm good. I was gonna second it, that's fine.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Please vote.
The motion to approve has been approved.
All right, thank y'all.
All right, have a good one, sir. All right, go to item 4, which is case 2024-3729-MRP, re-subdivision of parcel 9 into parcels 9A and 9B, Hanson Meadow Farms. Owner and representative is Greg Gerard Guidry and Catherine Thompson Guidry. Surveyors, Low Engineers. Parish Council District Representative, Honorable Martha Casabon. General location, the property is located at the end of Hanson Meadow Lane, Covington, Ward 2, District 3. Staff?
The applicant is requesting to create 2 parcels being proposed as parcel 9A and 9B from the existing 25.55 acre parcel being parcel 9. The public hearing is required considering that as stated in the restrictive covenants of the approved plat, no lot shall be further re-subdivided without approval from the planning commission. And parcel 9A does not meet the minimum lot width of 300 feet required under the A1 suburban zoning district and requiring a waiver from the planning commission. The request shall be subject to item number 1 to add the MIP file number to the survey.
Thank you. Are the Guidrys here?
Yes, sir, I'm Greg Guidry.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening, how are you doing?
So far, so good, I think.
This is where we live, this is our home, and we just would like to divide it into 2 parcels, a 10 acre and one just over 15 acres. I didn't realize that the 300 feet requirement was not met here, but if you look at the map, Hanson Meadow Lane just dead ends on our property. And if it was 1,000 feet, it really wouldn't make any difference, to the way the property is out there. It just dead ends right to our property. And it looks like at least 150 feet.
Okay,
If you have any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
all right. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anyone wish to speak against? We'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Seeger.
Move to approve with waiver.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Seeger with waivers. Commissioner McInnes.
I'm just curious, I wondered if some of my fellow commissioners recall, there was a subdivision in the Folsom area where there was extremely large lot sizes for farming, and they said, it was, they were told the lot sizes would never be reduced by a certain amount. And, but it really just meant it was become before the commission and that it could happen. So I'm wondering if anybody remembers that. I'm thinking it's not the same, but I was curious.
Mrs. McInnes, this is actually the same subdivision you're referring to.
It is?
Yes, however, in this case, if I'm not mistaken, the covenants allow for re-subdivision with approval from the planning commission, but above a certain area or a certain lot size.
Correct, and I think a result of that here and that you're referring to was that 10 acres would be the minimum size, and the re-subdivision that our neighborhood objected to at the time, they were under 10 acres.
Okay.
And I think that I guess it's more of an unofficial rule now that you've established with our neighborhood, that 10 acres, and that's why I would have liked to have done less than 10 for the house part, but I kept it at 10 to honor the position that we took as neighbors back at that last hearing. So it's 10
Okay.
acres.
Good. I did think that, and I didn't really want to reduce it without hearing from the rest of the neighborhood. So I will second that motion.
Okay, Commissioner Truxillo.
I'm good.
All right. Commissioner Troncoso.
Just two questions.
Yeah.
The Handsome Meadow Lane, is that a private servitude?
Well, I believe that it's a servitude where I think that the landowners own to the middle of the road with a servitude granted for the right of access.
So the servitude is something that is an amenity to your property? You don't own the other side of that 60 feet, do you?
The other side, no, just one side.
Okay. And my other question is what's a sand arena?
Well, that's how I knew that where the 150 feet was the was the amount of road that we have left, because that's my riding arena for horseback riding.
Okay.
And it's 200 by 100 feet.
My urbanness is showing here, okay. I got you.
It really is a rural area.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
The motion to approve is passed.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, we go to case 2024-3733-MRP, re-subdivision of lots 31 and 32 into lot 32A, Lake Ramsey Phase 1. Owner and representative is Scotty and Carol Brooksmole. Land Surveying LLC is the surveyor. Parish Council District Representative is Honorable Martha Casbon. General location, the property is located on the north side of South Lakeshore Drive, Covington, Ward 3, District 3. Staff?
The applicant is requesting to create one lot being proposed as a lot 32A from the existing lots 31 and 32 in Lake Ramsey subdivision. The public hearing is required considering that, as stated in the restrictive covenants of the approved plat, no lot shall be further re-subdivided without approval from the Planning Commission, and the request shall be subject to adding the signature line for the chairman of the Planning Commission to the survey.
All right, thank you. Are the Moles here?
Yes.
That might not be the right way to pronounce it either.
Mall, like a shopping
Mall,
mall.
okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
You have any comments on the staff report? You're satisfied?
Satisfied, yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anyone wish to speak against? We will close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner McInnes.
You've got an ideal spot there.
We like it.
Surrounded by lake, and then that's surrounded by natural area.
Yes, it's nice.
We always love it when someone wants to combine two lots into one. So I move to approve.
Motion.
I want to give a shout out to people who manage those natural areas, because I used to work with a nature conservancy that you might see smoke every now and then, but it keeps it very beautiful.
Yes, ma'am.
So, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Truxillo.
Now, we like when you increase lot size. I second.
And you have a second on that motion. Any further discussion? Please vote. Excuse me.
The motion to approve is passed.
All right,
Thank you.
and this Deer Crossing is one that Paul, right, Helen? Okay. All right, we go to item 7. Bonterra subdivision, phase 2, developer owner Lynn Levy Land Company LLC, engineer surveyors J.V. Burks and Associates Incorporated, Parish Council District Representative Honorable David Kugel. General location, the property is located on the east side of North Military Road, Louisiana Highway 1090, north of Interstate 12, Slidell, Ward 8, District 9. Staff?
Sir, periodic inspections have been made by this office during construction, and the final inspection was made on February 29th, 2024. The inspection disclosed that all asphalt roads are constructed and the subsurface drainage is functioning. Staff recommends a postponement of this final submittal for 1 month due to the following uncompleted items that exist at the time of final inspection and review. Planning Commission approval shall be subject to the following items number 1 through 11 being complete before plats are signed. Additionally, should the Planning Commission approve a request for final approval, a warranty obligation will be required for the infrastructure in the amount of 2,556 linear feet at $22 per linear foot for a total of $56,232 for a period of 2 years. Lastly, mandatory developmental fees are required as follows. Road impact fees at $1,077 per lot times 65 lots for a total of $70,005, and drainage impact fees at $1,114 per lot times 65 lots for a total of $72,410. Fees are due before subdivision plats can be signed. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Honorable Commission. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm, P.O. Box 1810 in Covington, representing the owner and petitioner, developer of Bonterra, Lynn Levy Land Company. We come before you this evening having, we believe, satisfactorily completed all of the infield items that are noted in the staff report. In particular, that's items 2 through 6 that required remediation. I hope you can appreciate that upon receipt of the report last week, we then made sure that the contractor got out, addressed these items, and we've given you a report that's certified by Mr. Burks, our engineer, who's with me this evening, and also photographs reflecting the work that has been done. I did have a chance to speak to Mr. Reynolds this afternoon, understanding that he would not have an opportunity to review the report, much less inspect the items in the field. But we would ask, as you have on occasion, respectfully consider granting final subdivision approval subject to a review of this report and further inspection of the site to make sure all the work has been completed. With regard to the other items in the staff report, and I guess in particular items 1 and then 7 through 11, we're in full agreement that these items should be produced, and we believe that they will be produced by the end of this week at the latest. So we're gathering that data and documents. As you know, staff requests that we not submit documents to them until after the hearing because they don't have an opportunity to review. So with those comments, we would respectfully request final subdivision approval for phase 2, clearly subject to staff being able to not only review our report, but to the extent they need to verify in the field that the work's been done, and also upon receipt of additional documents that have been requested, review of those documents to their satisfaction, and then at that time, the plat would hopefully be ready for signature and recordation. If any of you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them at the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shane. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this final? Anyone wish to speak against? All right, I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Truxillo.
This is the staff. Ted, you have any issue with us moving forward on this at this time?
Truthfully, it's kind of y'all's decision, but I mean, it's very typical that things get approved with comments. At the time of it, we had some concerns with things of mostly the construction nature. There was a section of the pond that had kind of silted in a little bit, and we wanted that needed to be removed and reworked to provide flow. And I believe what Mr. Burks' report says is that's been done. That was our primary concern and justification for the recommendation for postponement. But like Mr. Shane did state, that we don't have time to go back out there and reevaluate it, so we draft the report as is 2 weeks ahead of time before the meeting. So it's your discretion, but we will be going back regardless and inspecting the site again and reviewing all of the resubmitted documentation as it relates to the as-built before we sign plats and before we allow any of these lots to be recorded and then sold and built upon. So, we'll be out there again.
so the bottom line is they can't do anything until you're satisfied.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
Well, until staff is satisfied.
Motion by Commissioner Truxillo to approve. Commissioner Horn.
A second.
Second by Commissioner Horn. Commissioner McInnes.
I just hate to see items that know that they're supposed to be done, like need vegetation, that comes up time and time again. And that's just frustrating to me that some of these things they're not a surprise. They know they have to do it, and there it is, always on the list. So, and I know it's difficult. You have weather, you have a lot of things. I'm just going to throw out that comment.
Okay. You have a comment, Mr. Shane?
Agree with the frustration. I just wanted to make sure she knew that the work had been complete, though, as evidenced by the
No.
photographs.
I know.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, though, when we come to bat, if the work's done, and I just wanted to make sure you recognize.
Well, I assume you threw seed out there. Seed, it's not really green. It's not holding the soil yet, but you have done the steps, right?
I understand your point. Yes.
Okay. So you see a lot of erosion around our developments, and I know it's a challenge, but we just rarely see that it is really green and vegetated.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Troncoso.
Concerns, but I certainly do like the underground sewer. And this is something that another Baton Rouge developer is coming in and is putting underground sewer, catch basins, rollover curbs. Interesting, very nice, very good. This is the kind of development we need. More of that, less ditches in this parish. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We've got a motion and a second. Ted, do you want a copy of Sean's? Oh, you got one? Okay. All right. I will give that to you then to put in the records. So we got a motion and a second. Please vote.
The motion to approve is passed. Truxillo and Horn.
All right, we go to old business. This is item 8, request to enter the parish right-of-way for the north side of Little Creek Road for the purpose of installing subsurface drainage from Commerce Boulevard to Dream Team Drive. The debtor is Church of the King, resolution number 20-007. Parish Council District Representative is Honorable Arthur Laughlin. General location, the property is located on the north side of Little Creek Road, east of Louisiana Highway 59, and north of Interstate 12, Mandeville, Ward 4, District 11. Developers requesting an extension of time to provide required documentation and complete the work. Staff?
Yes, sir. Honorable Commissioners. There we go. Yes, sir. Honorable Commissioners, the above referenced resolution was adopted on February 11th, 2020. The resolution states that the petitioner shall submit all documentation required within 1 year from the date of adoption. Additionally, the petitioner has 2 years to complete the work on this project. If not completed within 2 years, approval of this work will be voided and the petitioner will be required to reapply for permission. Previously, this case received an extension of the adoption date to March 8th, 2022 under old business at the March 8th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. The following action is required by the Planning Commission to allow the petitioner to proceed with this project. Excuse me. Action required: extend the adoption date to March 18th, 2024, hereby extending the 1 year submittal of documentation date to March 18th, 2025, and the completion date to March 18th, 2026. The petitioner's engineer, Mr. Frank Zimmer, has requested an extension of time to submit the required documentation. See the attached email dated January 30th, 2024. The Department of Engineering Development has no objection to this extension. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shane?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm, P.O. Box 1810 in Covington, representing Church of the King. The church has not been able to finish this project because they have not been able to fully fund all of the work. Some of the work's been done. There's obviously no problems other than they have not been able to complete along the timeline that they initially had hoped to complete. So we would appreciate this extension. In due course, they will complete the work and we will have more subsurface drainage at that location.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anyone wish to speak against? I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
Mr. Shane, just one question. This was extended once already, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
But I think the work had not started at that time, but now it's started.
Yes,
Okay.
but I think the work has been, there's been a cessation for some period of time too.
Okay.
So it's been sporadic. They've taken, basically they've phased it internally.
Yeah.
And that's really what's going on. And now they've tried to prioritize to finish it up, and I think they'll be able to get it done now.
Okay, good. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve. Commissioner Horn.
I second.
Second by Commissioner Horn. Commissioner Seeger.
How long is the extension? I didn't hear anything about the length of the extension. Do we have any idea, Jeff?
It's a year.
Good. So the extension of time to submit the required documentation is being extended for a year, and the amount of time to complete the work will be extended from 2 years from the date of this meeting, subject to y'all's approval.
And that should be enough time to get it done.
Thank you.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second. Please vote. That's got, Laughlin.
The motion to approve the request for a 1 year extension is passed.
All right. Thank you. All right, we go to item 9. Request to enter the parish right-of-way for Henry Clay Street, Town of Mandeville, unincorporated, for the purpose of gaining access to the property. The debtor is Dilso Cantano Goncalves. Resolution 22-043. Parish Council District Representative, Honorable Pat Phillips. General location: the property is located on the west side of Henry Clay Street, west of Coffee Street, north of Louisiana Highway 190, and south of Interstate 12, Mandeville, Ward 4, District 5. Developers requesting an extension of time to provide required documentation and complete the work. Staff?
Yes, sir. Honorable Commissioners, the above referenced resolution was adopted at the April 12th, 2022 meeting. The resolution states that the petitioner shall submit all documentation required within 1 year from the date of adoption. Additionally, the petitioner has 2 years to complete the work on this project. If not completed within 2 years, approval of this work will be voided and the petitioner will be required to reapply for permission. As of the date of this letter, our office has not received required documentation. Since the time has expired for the petitioner to furnish all documentation, the following action is required by the Planning Commission to allow the petitioner to proceed with this project. Action required is extend the adoption date to March 18th, 2024, hereby extending the 1 year submittal of documentation to March 18th, 2025, and the completion date to March 18th, 2026. The petitioner, Mr. DeLusso, has requested extension of time to submit the required documentation. See the attached email dated January 26, 2024. The Department of Engineering Development has no objection to this extension. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
And you are?
I'm representing Dilsel.
Okay. Do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience want to speak against? Don't see anybody. All right. I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Troncoso.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Troncoso to approve. Commissioner Gaines.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gaines. Please vote.
The motion to grant a 1-year extension has been approved.
All right, we'll go to new business, and this is the, we're gonna pick up the, part that we postponed earlier. Pardon?
No, because this is on the agenda for this meeting, and then after we deal with this one, we'll go back to the zoning meeting.
Okay. Do I have a motion to,
I'm on y'all time schedule, so you tell me. I just work here. Can you plug in HDMI?
okay.
Let's see.
They try to set me up with, and then it should be here. Oh wait, no, yeah.
The big one?
Y'all all gonna see my crazy name.
Yeah, I can make a copy. Can you watch this?
Huh?
Can you watch this if I go make a copy?
I guess.
Okay, be right back.
You're not gonna jump out at me.
I don't think so. It hasn't had me yet.
Well, you leaving early on us, huh?
I've been here since 8 o'clock. I'm out.
I'll bet my patron home.
Does anybody need one? Ted, stick around for a few minutes.
Yeah, this is right.
I'll take
You-
one if there's an extra. I'm not working on it. I can't flip between my.
Oh, that's what we need. New business, we need a pay raise on this commission.
You're like, we're putting y'all hard to work.
Bring that up to the,
You actually need to bring that up to the state legislature because they're the ones that control your pay.
And they're taking up a whole session on the Constitution.
Are we even legal? Are we even legal to do anything since we haven't been sworn in or recognized or whatever? Are we?
Y'all good?
You're like, can I leave?
I'm not gonna bet on him.
Mr. Truxillo, do you have a comment?
You wanted a motion to adjourn, didn't you?
No. We have a few more business items to take care of. Look, I'm gonna recognize our consultant, one of our consultants on this team, Alex Carter. So she'll come up. We'll dial back a little bit since she's here, and we'll pick up where we left off.
And she's gonna know what she's talking about.
I'm gonna try.
It takes a village. It's good to see y'all. I'm sorry that I was tardy earlier, but it sounds like y'all got pretty far into this. I think just from a high level, to just recap on the housekeeping study, it looks like a lot, right? It looks like a pretty big packet. That's because whenever you kind of touch the code, there's all these like domino effects of having to check the references and the table numbers. And so a lot of the materials in your packet are actually pretty minor. It just looks like a lot. So what I would ask y'all to do is focus on those red strikeouts and the blue text. That's really, the meat of the matter. You do have to kind of read around it to understand the context. So we try as much as possible to give you that, what is going on around this edit for transparency's sake. And as well, there's sort of more, it looks like a lot, but a lot of these edits are very minor. They're table numbers, figure numbers, and we really appreciate that this was a significant process that the public and y'all have gone through. And so we took that extra step to make sure that, no matter what the change was, we were sharing it with y'all so that there wasn't any suspicion about, this says table and this exhibit, what else did you change? And so it looks very in depth, but it's actually pretty, surface level changes for the most part. I know Ross went over the major subdivisions, and it seems like y'all kind of appreciate the policy change that's involved in that. And so kind of just digging in and continuing to kind of walk through y'all's questions. Did y'all have any questions for me before I kind of pick up where Ross left off? Cool. Good job, Ross. He did a great job. Okay.
That's on the record.
Yeah, make sure we get that. Erin's pretty great.
100% agree with that. 100% agree.
You have to see the forest and the trees for it to work. So for your zoning and subdivision regulations, this slide kind of summarizes it. Oh, I don't know if y'all can see my slides. I'm realizing. Oh, cool. Awesome. So we're picking up around in 400, which if you're in your packet, you can kind of look through. This is picking up on page 5, right? And it looks like there's a lot going on here, but really the major differences is acknowledging some of the maximum building size edits and making sure that those were appropriate. Initially, we pulled them out in the code because we were like, these are big, heavy commercial districts. The zoning regulations will kind of keep them reined in. But then in second review, we were like, let's just add them back and make them bigger, but make sure there's something that we can measure upon review. And so those have been added back in for the PBC, HC3, HC4. And then removing the building size requirement for CBF1. This is the community-based facility district, because in some instances, it did still make sense not to include it. So there was some more additional kind of refinement here. There is a reincorporation of standards that limit hours of operation for commercial uses that abut residential. This is in your planned corridor districts. And this was just something that I think just got lost when we, clipped text from one to the other and staff caught it. This is why we do housekeeping studies. So it's not a new thing. It's just oh wait, we forgot this thing. Let's make sure it's in there. And then, Erin had mentioned in 500, y'all had kind of skipped over 400, but oh yeah, go ahead.
Before you move on from 400, so I have a question about number 8 there. It looks like we're adding back in the language to multifamily into the HC2 district. I think that was one of the points of contention for the Covington Trace Heights apartments. And that language was supposed to be kind of reviewed. Lodging was the operative word there. So how is this going to affect that subdivision?
I'm going to defer to Emily on this question. So if I remember correctly, we had a council meeting back maybe in February that should have been maybe the adoption of removing multifamily and apartments from the HC classifications. And the council did not, and the council removed it from the agenda to not even vote on it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. So this current council doesn't feel the same way as the previous council and chose not to vote on removing them from the current classifications. So when the UDC was adopted, was recommended goes back in. If that makes sense. With better definitions and clarifications than what we previously had, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think the idea here is to be clear about whether it is or is not, and be very, very clear that multifamily is in these districts. This is a great question, so I'm glad you're highlighting it. But ultimately, with this
So
proposed,
that is ultimately going to be a permitted use of that land
per these proposed
per
amendments.
these proposed amendments.
Yes.
You understand why? Because the council just chose not to address it.
Well, so we had a new council that probably wasn't really familiar with the problem.
I disagree with the assessment. They chose not to address it. I believe they addressed it in the form and fashion that they wanted to.
Okay, they removed it from the agenda, which, no, but I just want to clarify that. You know, we voted on it to send it to them, and then they chose to remove it from the agenda, which means it was dead, right? So it was a dead issue.
We didn't touch it, or they didn't touch it.
We don't touch it again unless we bring it up again.
Great question.
Is that, I don't know that really, I mean, did they have community meetings to address that or anything? I mean, there's still signs all up and down the highway right there opposing that issue. So.
I mean, I would, yeah,
I mean, I'll answer it this way. So we're looking at the use within a specific zone classification,
Sure.
not a specific property based on whether that zone classification is correct for that piece of property. So for St. Tammany Parish, it's more than common everywhere else to have multifamily in highway commercial and in also higher intense residential districts. So the question, there's legal proceedings going on right now, so I'm not
Sure.
going to get into it too deep, but
Does this also, I mean, if we ratify this, does this remove the moratorium on multifamily homes as well?
no, that's a separate ordinance in itself.
So there's still a moratorium in effect on multifamily dwellings then?
It's not a parish-wide moratorium.
It's specific to certain areas? Is it?
Correct.
Is it in that area?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to reiterate for what Ross was getting at is, you know, it is very common in a best practice to allow multifamily housing in heavy commercially zoned areas. If there's reluctance from the community about where those areas are zoned, that would be part of your mapping effort, right? So I think in best practice, you want to permit multifamily housing in these zones. It's a question of where they're mapped, right? And that's sort of a next step too. So get your code in alignment, and then let's take that next step and think about, you know, where is it potentially problematic, where people don't want it, and look at what that zoning should be instead, right? It's a great question though. Let's see. And then there is a lot of numbers and a lot of text in chapter 400 in your packet dealing with these contiguous lot regulations, and that's because we do feel like it's important for people to realize when they're looking at their zoning district regulations and it has their minimum lot area requirements, that they realize there's this extra standard that's within the non-conforming use regulations. So those are just really the same standard over and over again in every one of those districts. So it looks like we're adding a lot of text, but it's just repeated over and over again to refer them to one section of standards in all the zoning districts. So I just want to make that clear. It looks like a lot, but it's a standard reference. And then we clarify wording regarding the prohibition of commercial uses in specific districts, because this was something that's very important to the parish. And we understand there's a lot going on there, and we want to make sure the positions on these cases are clear and consistent. And then you have here this multifamily permitted in the HC2, HC2A, HC3. So we've talked a little bit about that. Does anybody have questions about amendments on this line? Cool.
I have a question which doesn't actually deal with this. You know, it goes back to what Carl, who left, was saying that when we incorporated the street right-of-ways, I thought I heard him say that since it was a street right-of-way, it wasn't zoned, but that's incorrect. I mean, all the street right-of-ways are supposed to be zoned. Is that correct or not? Yes, okay. So the midpoint, if there are two different zones, the midpoint of the right-of-way is where it changes on a thing. Otherwise, it's zoned all the same, the street right-of-way. So I was curious as to why he made the statement that it was, you know, he didn't know, or he, you know, wasn't designated that
the street right-of-way, because all street right-of-ways have zoning classifications. So I mean, it's today, it's yesterday, and will continue to be, correct?
That's correct, yes. I'm not sure if he didn't, if the answer was that he did not know which one was zone A4 and A2 in this case, but that's correct. They're all currently zoned.
All right.
Anything else?
I have a question.
No.
I'm looking at this bullet point, redefine what constitutes a major subdivision and development with over 100 lot times 25.
I think your mic's on.
I don't know, is it on?
Did your button again?
I did.
Yeah, I don't mind repeating what you were saying. So you're asking about the bullet point on the far left bottom corner that says redefine what constitutes a major subdivision.
Yeah, but there's more to that.
Yes.
Let me finish.
Good, great.
Let me finish, okay? I understand what y'all are doing here, and I appreciate it, but I think you need to carry it a little further. What constitutes a major subdivision that requires two ingress and egress?
Well, and this particular comment was a comment that was received, right? It was an ask, but it wasn't something that we changed, right? So this is an important distinguishing factor. So you have comments that are prompting changes, and this particular comment, I don't know, Ross, if you want to weigh in. Yeah.
Yep. So, again, I'll just piggyback on what Alex was saying. We need to, and we're still working on what constitutes a second ingress and egress to a development, and of what size, and of what criteria. So we're still working on that particular item.
Okay.
So hopefully we're going to come back with just a few more items in May. It's not going to be 36 like this one. I anticipate this one to be 20. We're at 36 now. I mean, when you start doing, it's just a domino effect. But I think in May when we come back with our second set, I'm hoping to be 10 or less. But that's one that we're still working on, and I hope we're ready for May. But we're still working on it.
Thank you.
That's very important.
Great. Any other questions on this slide? All right. And then just to kind of follow through, these amendments, we also added references to procedures and requirements associated with the subdivision of substandard lots. This is what we were talking about earlier, and kind of reincorporating and clarifying those regulations. This was just something that when we made the transfer community code, not all of it made it in the same place. And so we were kind of realigning those pieces. So it's not new standards. It's just kind of, we pulled it in and then streamlined it and made it easier to understand. Where the text was duplicative or was addressed through another means, it was removed, but the meat of what it's trying to accomplish is there and clearer, and then referenced within those zoning districts. And then we talked a little bit about the work without a permit, and I think Jimmy or Weldon, you had commented on that, so we have that comment. Does anybody else have any comments about work without a permit?
We're going to continue to watch it.
We're gonna, yeah.
Work on it.
And I know, like in other communities, sometimes with minor fees, minor penalties, they'll make the penalty commiserate with the fee, right? So if it's a small permit, it's like 60% of the cost of the permit. So if it's, somebody who's just trying to build a shed, right? They're not gonna get a $1,000 fine for their shed permit. And then I think here we removed options that reduce lot area and width through the Planning and Zoning Commission waivers. So this is in response to the subdivision incentives, right? So if you're giving people incentives to provide better community benefits by providing street trees or sidewalks or increased connectivity, you don't want to leave on the books their ability to ask you for a waiver to reduce lot width and area without anything, right? Because you're like, well, it's kind of counterintuitive. So we've pulled those things that don't actually, support the incentive policy change.
So, like I was saying earlier, they can't come to y'all and just say we want to reduce lot sizes. Now they have to have a criteria of how they meet the ability to ask you for waivers on the lot size.
Right, exactly. So there's a give and a take, right? So if you give something. Yeah.
We've been giving out. We haven't been taking anything, so now we're going to be taking.
right? And y'all's lot sizes are fairly large, right? So there's a demand for reducing the width that I think is going to be, y'all can capitalize on that give and take for community benefits, which is an exciting, I think, next step for St. Tammany Parish. We did add this statement about as-built plans that acknowledges responsible entities for maintaining tree canopies and native tree canopies. This is just something that goes on the plat that local staff were like, we need to have this extra protection. And then y'all have talked about the proposed incentives for major subdivisions. For infrastructure, these are pretty straightforward. Did anybody have questions about any other amendments in 400 before I move on to 900? No? Okay. Oh. I'm sorry. It's okay.
Start singing.
Yes, ma'am.
Hit it once.
I hit it 3 times. 9 goes. Thank you. Keep on saying incentives. Give me an example of an incentive.
Perfect. So what we're talking about is if you want a 5% decrease in your lot area, right? You have to provide 5% more natural area on your property, up to 20%. So you can add 20% more natural area for 20% decrease in your lot width or area, or 20% of your impact fees. The impact fee incentive is really only limited to that situation. There's not a lot of room on the impact fee. It's really canopy for impact. And then for the connections, there's a lot of talk about connectivity. People want to be able to walk more. They want to be able to get in and out of their subdivisions. There's traffic concerns. We see this in the parish multimodal transportation plan. So one of the incentives is you have to provide 3 connections for 5% decrease in your lot area or width. And that is very specific. It's connecting a sidewalk to a nearby commercial area. It's connecting an existing street in a neighboring subdivision. And there's another connection related to natural areas. So if you say, I'm going to save this 5% of my natural area, and you put it next to someone else's natural area, because those trees are more likely to live if they're grouped, right? So we're encouraging people to think about how their subdivision relates to the surrounding subdivisions and better plan them. And so 3 connections, at least 3, gives you 5%. So we're trying not to give away the farm, right? We're trying to sort of manage. The sidewalk revision is a fun one. It's I think it's 10% if you provide up to 50% of the subdivision with sidewalks, which means every street has a sidewalk on one side, which is pretty adequate. You don't need them on both sides. You really just need them on one. There's another one that's for public uses and dedicating space for public space for libraries and police stations. And that's related to the average size of a lot on your property. So you're saying, I'm making a big subdivision, I take these, I think it's 2 or 3 lots. There's a metric for all of them, right? So you're not we didn't want to put y'all in a position where you're like, this sounds great, but we don't know what it means, right? We don't know if they're meeting that requirement. So as much as possible, we tried to pair the incentive with a reasonable metric that you can weigh. Another one, we know the parish struggles with affordable housing. Everybody struggles with affordable housing right now. So there's an incentive related to, whenever you propose, units that are more than 1, right? you get a benefit up to 10%. So there's providing more housing options is incentivized. Off the top of my head, but I think y'all have also in your packet, I think it's on page. There's a chart. It makes it easier to really dig into what the provision is, what the associated benefit is, and how those criteria are evaluated.
Great information. Thank you.
No, it's a great question. I'm glad that you asked that so we clarify, because I'm talking, it's on page 3, and you'll see, because, as much as we wanted to reduce some of these difficult landscaping requirements that we were seeing, we wanted to be able to piggyback it with all the community benefits that we know the parish struggles with providing to its residents as a trade-off. And so you'll see here, one of them too is an internal subdivision street canopy. So it's a 5% decrease in the minimum lot width for every 2,000 linear feet of internal streets planted. So you think about lining your subdivisions with trees, street trees. It's hard when you're clearing and filling to preserve those trees in a healthy way. And so we've sort of tried to find that compromise in these discussions. And I credit staff for working through a lot of these really minutia details and pushing through to solutions that really make sense.
Mr. Truscillo, do you have a comment?
I'm good now.
You good? Okay.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
James?
I'll
Yeah,
ramble.
my mic's on. It's okay. I just hit it.
Pardon?
I have a question about just kind of reading through. Have you guys done anything to address the manufactured housing overlay?
Still working on that one.
Yeah.
That's what we're still working on.
That one we really have to map. So to understand the impacts of regulations that change the way you manage mobile homes or manufactured homes in the parish, we really need to map the existing location, which zones they're currently permitted in, where the overlay exists, and really understand sort of where they're concentrated, where they're not, where the patterns are, where they fall in traditional, some districts. Because the solution, we think, may be in permitting them by right in specific areas or specific sized lots. But by doing that without knowing how it's going to, whether it's going to create a ton of nonconforming uses or just a few, as much as we can mitigate creating a lot of nonconforming uses, I think it's that extra step is worth doing that analysis, that spatial analysis.
So how does that relate to the Fair Housing Act?
So right now you have an avenue for permitting mobile homes. There is no prohibition on the ability to apply and have an application process.
There's no prohibition on your ability to apply,
Right.
but you can get denied. Like, because if you buy a piece of land that doesn't have that permitted use, even though it might meet the density requirements or the size requirements, you still can't put one there.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty,
How does that relate to the Fair Housing Act?
I think the consistency in decision making is key with fair housing, right? So, and communicating clearly why you're denying an application, and it has to be related to the conditions of the site, right? And so, but I think what we've discovered in our review of the current code is that there are other alternatives for doing this that are more predictable, that are less administratively burdensome for people to find housing that is affordable. But it's a matter of understanding the implications of those different options to determining which makes the most sense.
So by changing some of the multifamily restrictions and everything, so that you're incentivizing multifamily inside of residential, like major subdivisions and everything, you're encouraging that to kind of offset the need for manufactured housing?
I don't think I would put them together that way. I think that there is a need for housing choice, and that's a need that this.
That's not a need; it's a right.
Well, right.
So I'm not trying to mince words of just like we don't have you can't rent a space or a single bedroom for less than $1,000 in the parish. So you can buy a mobile home for $560. So how do we bridge the gap between those two things, and how are we addressing it in the code rewrite?
We're still working on the MHO and what that path is for, but I don't think we'll have that one done by May.
Sure. I was just curious where it was going.
Yeah, all really good points though. All really good points that are going to help us in those next steps. Any other questions? All right. Let's see. So for infrastructure in 900, the comments were, there was a perceived 4-foot paved shoulder on uncurbed roadway increases. And this was something that, we had negotiated and talked with stakeholders, and it just didn't really manifest clearly enough. So these edits are really just to re-emphasize what was already agreed on in more than one place. So that there was a very, very consistent and deliberate reaffirmation that the 4-foot shoulders do not need to be paved, right? And so we clarified these issues in the code in section 903-3, and it looks like a lot of graphics are being updated, but really it's just re-emphasizing the same point.
You got a comment?
I have a question, and actually John stole my question about manufactured housing.
Okay.
But my other question is, that's one of the biggest things that we deal with at the zoning commission. The other thing that we deal with constantly is traffic.
Mm-hmm.
That's the two big areas. Do you want to decrease traffic? Public transit, do we address that at all? I know we're not, but we need to start thinking about that. If not for the next 5 or 10 years, in 20 years, why not? Why aren't we talking about that? And I don't know how to do it, but realistically, we need that. Some of us are getting older. We don't want to drive everywhere. We want somebody to come pick us up. We want to be able to go to the bus stop or to the monorail station or to the train station. And we need to discuss that. We need to get it on the agenda somewhere down the road.
Well, and I think for y'all, y'all manage, and the planning commission, right, manages the comprehensive plan, which sets forth these kinds of visions, right? As much as we want to solve everything in one document, right, this I think is really, let's get our house in order. Let's get our regulations to be understandable. Let's make sure people understand what they can and can't do. Transportation is going to be addressed in your comprehensive plan, which I think y'all just recently updated, and then manifested in your multimodal plan, so which is right now out for comment. So this is a great comment. So I think it's something that we want to hear, right, and we want to incorporate in those next steps for that plan, so that they can be thinking about what kind of services make the most sense in St. Tammany.
I mean, I'll say it this way, and I say it like this all the time. I don't know if President Cooper, how he feels about it, but I say if he was Parish president 15, 20 years ago, we wouldn't necessarily have all these problems that we have now. Since I got here 4 years ago, and it's not just, I didn't want to use the word I, but when I started this job 4 years ago, President Cooper recognized we didn't have a comprehensive plan that was updated since the year 2000. We don't have a transportation plan. We don't have a drainage plan. We don't have any of these things that need us to put us on the correct path forward as a parish that grew by 50% in a matter of like 10 years. So, in the past 4 years, and I'll say this too, on the private side for 18, my resume was 10 pages. Being here for 4 years, my resume is an additional 10 pages. We've done a lot of work, but we have a lot of work to catch up on, and that's what we're doing now. The code rewrite with the comprehensive plan, with the transportation plan, engineering's doing a drainage plan, and it's a ton of work. Can't address every issue like you said, but those are important issues, but we're trying to, catch up, pick up, from some items that need to be done now, and that sets us on a good path forward for the future. But I appreciate all your comments. I know how you feel about the MHO. I know how you feel about the transit, and we're going to get there.
Those things that you just discussed are a lot more critical than, in my opinion, than making sure that we have 20 Class A trees per acre or per square foot. That's cosmetic.
So those things are easy in a development code.
Yes, it is.
What you're
It's
talking
easy.
about,
It's easier to do that stuff than it is to.
within a development code, like the development code has a lot of serious engineering and planning work that's in it. But your example was one of the easier ones. The MHO is a more difficult one. That's why we're still working on it. So it runs the gamut of.
I'd like to go on record as saying that that's a critical thing that we need to be discussing, and also go on record that y'all are working your butts off to get this done and to make a comprehensive plan, and I do appreciate that.
I know you do.
Yeah, so.
Commissioner Crawford.
Just another comment, I appreciate that also.
Wait a minute.
There
Now we got
There we
you.
go. Okay. Appreciate the effort also. Just thinking about what Tom said about transportation, does that fall under Regional Planning Commission at all, or do they do anything with that?
They do.
They do? That's a topic that comes up.
Well, you've also, it can be, I know when my wife was still alive, we had to use Stark as the public transportation, and it worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
No, it
Now,
works good.
did you call them and they were there 10 minutes later? No.
But it
Okay?
works, yeah.
But you give them time, they got there. Okay?
Yeah.
So-
There's a certain age group that there's.
I'm talking about more of a general population.
And I think
Yeah.
Helen's going to speak on this one. I see her grabbing the mic already.
It is available to general population. I've used it myself.
And a lot of people don't know that.
And if you're interested in public transportation, the parish has their community needs assessment, which is online, and it has an assessment of those services that was just recently done within the last year. So you can go look to that page.
Nell?
about public transportation.
Nell, you?
I just wanted to follow up on Mr. Seeger in that that transportation plan, will it come before us,
Yes.
right? So I encourage everybody to look at it now and be ready to give some substantive comments. Yeah.
So we're hoping the draft plan will be out in May. That's kind of what you really want to look at. Then we hope to finalize it by June.
Are comments still open? You still taking comments?
Until March 29th on proposed projects. And there's about 100 of them out there, so and we're just trying to get public feedback right now to inform our draft plan for May.
But this group can send in
Absolutely.
preferences also.
Yeah.
So,
And it's a great place to talk about public
know,
transportation.
but we had our, and it always happens this way, we had our 2 live public meetings about 2 weeks ago, one here and one at the Towers building. I think we had about a total of 20 people here in Coop, maybe 5 people in Slide Out the Towers building. But and I knew it was going to happen because it always happens this way. They don't necessarily want to come in, but they know it's going to be online for like 3 weeks. So I believe went live last week, and I've probably gotten at least 100 to 150 comments already. So we have to do the public engagement live, but so much more information comes in through our website. But I like the interaction because I think you get better feedback and conversation when it's live, other than just somebody comprehending it and maybe misunderstanding it and then sending in a comment. So that happens too. But it's going well.
And the project team has a storyboard that kind of explains the process too. So it's pretty user friendly online if you're interested in commenting.
Hey Ross, if somebody proposes a subway system, that came from me.
We named the John Gaines subway system.
Submarines, man, submarines.
Oh man, these other ones are again other edits that are pretty minor, but to just clarify some engineering specifications that affect the drawings, and so you'll see those. The parish has reviewed these and edited them as well, so they are just really being up to date so that they reflect the same requirements in the text. And so this just really gets at ingresses and egresses, minimum utility servitudes, directional drilling that's allowed, procedures regarding cross-access agreements. There are no changes to the TIA requirements as part of this study. There were requested changes that were not incorporated. And so I think that kind of reflects the need to manage traffic very closely. So those changes were not incorporated. Okay, any questions on 900? Cool. So our next steps are really to, have y'all review and make a recommendation, bring these to the council to review and adopt as part of an ordinance. We expect the UDC will be implemented beginning July 1st. One thing we want to make sure y'all fully appreciate, because we're going to send this to you, but you're not going to have to read all of it, but it's another sort of housekeeping element. It's in the same spirit as these edits. Is that they're, because we're updating the UDC, all the references in part 1 now refer to part 2 differently, right? So we need to go through all of part 1 of your code, which is your charter, and make sure whenever they reference zoning or development standards or administrative matters or procedures, that they're correctly referencing the right section. This work is underway. It wasn't quite ready for y'all to see just yet, but we're almost finished it. And you won't have to act on this because it's outside of your purview. It's part of the charter, not part of development. But it is tangential in that it's referencing your sections. So we want to make sure y'all have the opportunity to take a look at that. If you have comments, please do let us know. But it will kind of come to y'all as an awareness. But I think it'll go straight to the council as a sort of decision making on overall code management.
Commissioner Horn.
Under the UDC, just to refresh our memory, how does that change the Planning and Zoning Commission?
It recommends, or it's been adopted, right? It's just not effective, that y'all are one group, right? So the Planning and Zoning Commission are no longer 2 commissions. It's one commission called the Planning and Zoning. When you have your meetings, you open and close in the same meeting, right? So you have planning items on one list of an agenda, and then you have your subdivision items that come separate, and you can hold one public hearing.
And so that means once
The idea is that hopefully that the changes in the code will make it easier for y'all to handle administrative subdivisions, minor and major. So you won't have to have as many cases that would necessitate more than one meeting per month. It's likely in the beginning you may still have to have two, but over time the idea is that you would be able to peter that out and only have one meeting of your planning and zoning commission with your items just separated on your agenda for planning and zoning.
We'll be able to get out of here at 8 o'clock instead of 10 o'clock or 12.
We hope. Right? All right. Any other questions?
Did we get a copy of this actual, did we get a copy of this that was on the screen?
Yeah, I can email that, the presentation. Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
No, you got a comment?
Well, I want to go back to something that I wasn't sure what section it was in.
Yeah.
Maybe 600, about the natural area strips. In that I read about protecting a buffer, it's sort of like a buffer to the buffer, a buffer to the natural area, 2 foot beyond the drip line.
Aaron, do you want?
Are y'all with me there?
It might be a critical root zone that you're referring to, but I don't think we affected that in these standards.
No, I read it in this document. Because I had a concern. See, look at, no, that's, I had a concern when one of the councilmen wanted for us to address the buffers a few months ago, and we discussed it, and then we postponed it. But if you fill right up to the edge of the natural area, the trees on the edge are going to die, or they're going to be a lot less healthy and may die because you've put 1 foot, 2 foot of fill on their root system. So I was going to make a comment, but then I saw later something about a drip line, a root protection area. And then there was also talk about fencing along the natural area, up a minimum 3 foot.
Yes.
It was that same section.
Yes, when we worked on the tree survey requirements, we limited those. We still protected areas that were proposed to be natural areas as part of the incentive. So if you're proposing to build a major subdivision and you're adding additional natural area, right? So you're preserving more than the required natural area, you would have to fence off and protect that natural area, and there are specific requirements for that. Sorry.
So y'all aren't familiar with what I'm saying.
I'm looking for
is
it.
That I'm sorry, I had it marked, but now I don't know where it is. I just want to make sure that's true, because otherwise you're going to be a lot, that people can go, see, you can't save these trees. It was because you
Here it is. Yeah, it's on page 27. And it's fencing required, existing trees in natural areas that are retained, including those counted toward a major re-subdivision incentive, must have their root zone protected, with fencing located 2 feet from the drip line to prevent damage from heavy construction vehicles, materials, and other adverse activities. And then there's additional language here that says, for additional natural areas provided a credit towards that incentive, hard fencing is required. So it kind of goes even further to say, in all other areas, you can do flexible fencing. But if you're preserving a natural area in addition to what's required, you have to provide hard fencing, because we don't want to see any of that die and give, a 5% decrease in your lot area and see all the trees die. So there's extra steps that are being made for the incentive to make sure, the community's getting what it's trading.
I'm not sure it's totally clear. It doesn't say you can't fill to the natural area line.
Right, so the fill
It says you have to put the fence beyond.
I see what you're saying. So, yeah, I got it.
They're going to. Look, I've managed property. And they will put the fill to the property line, and it will wash into your property. And then you will have trees on that edge die.
That's a really good catch. I mean, we can
really
add
need
and fill. Yeah.
No fill in that 2 foot from the drip line area. And I don't know, maybe not even any dozer work, but I guess you got to remove the other vegetation. But okay, good. I'm glad we talked about that.
And just keep in mind too that that staff is aware that if you have a natural area that you're preserving, you're essentially creating a bowl, right? If you're filling all around it, like that would not be permitted. So in the natural area regulations, it says very clearly, if the proposal is not in alignment with the intent of preserving it, like if staff is like, you can do all these things and these trees are still going to die, they're going to say, no, this isn't going to work. So that is in the code too, in the introductory sections of the natural area requirements. Because this was something we talked about, Phil being kind of like, you know,
What it does now.
what it does now. Yeah.
Okay, shoot, now I thought I had, go ahead, because I'm trying to remember my next question.
Forgive me for walking in late, and I'm sure that this must have been covered in the time period when I wasn't here. But let's see, we covered manufactured housing, we covered traffic. One of the other things is flooding. And Ross, I know you know what I'm gonna say. If you're in a certain flood zone, and I'm not gonna tell you which one it is, I don't know, to require elevated housing.
So we did speak on it
Okay.
a little bit.
Okay.
That's one of the items we're still working on, how to incorporate that into the code correctly. But it's something that, and I think, Emily tried to say it a little better than I did. The commission currently has the authority to require developers to elevate in certain sections or certain areas if it meets certain criteria. So you have that authority now and you use it. How we impact that type of mitigation across the parish is
Mitigation or litigation?
Mitigation of flooding of people's homes. How do we mitigate that parish-wide in a code? That's very difficult, and we're still working on it.
And you'll have some moratoriums that are in place that trigger studies that look at overlays and building requirements. The thing about the floodways and floodplains is they're location specific too. So like what he's saying, so it's kind of like the mobile home situation where you need to know where these
Manufactured.
manufactured homes, you need to know where they are, right, in order to appropriately regulate, right? And so that's a mapping question as well. It could be an overlay. And there are studies that are on the books that are in response to moratoriums that are looking at this.
And another, related to that, pervious pavement. Is that somewhere in the line too?
But kind of going along with what Tom's saying, we have developers that for some reason like to build slab on grade, when it would be more appropriate to build it elevated.
Yeah.
Oh, but we can't do that. It costs too much. BS. I'm sorry.
So-
But that,
So we can turn that down now with the tools we have?
Yes.
Within reason. As long as you're not being arbitrary and capricious.
What I would say is, if and when a development comes in front of this body, and this is an area that maybe, Nell knows or, Jared knows, and they say this area floods, how is your development going to mitigate that flooding possibility? And they're gonna tell you, well, we're gonna bring in a bunch of fill and put houses on the slab. You can say, well, no, is there a better way to do it? Postpone, make them come to you, ask staff to review a little bit further, and then provide a little bit more information. So right now, you do have that authority to, within certain, I guess, ways of asking, yeah.
Associated with drainage, right?
Mr.
So,
Horn.
right, because it is a question of, as a planning commission, you're not actually issuing building permits, right? Like that's not, like what they build on the lot is kind of outside of your purview, but how they prepare the lot for development, how they
build
install.
is within theirs. They can demand, certain types of construction.
Right, and that's what I want to hit on that, because a lot of times with this commission, we get faced with the apartment complexes, things like that, that's going to actually cause downhill flooding or around the area flooding.
Right.
With our apartment complex, that's going to be kind of difficult to elevate in that manner, I believe. But in the other developments where we know it's going to be slab on clay, is this the time where we intervene and say it should go a certain way? We don't want to give up this opportunity by not knowing.
Every beachfront condominium built in Florida is
That's a
built
good point.
18 feet off the ground on concrete pylons and
Right.
has, parking underneath it. I have a logic, I mean, I'm serious, right?
Right, this is the thing.
Mr. Horn,
Huh?
but Mr. Horn, yes, that is still something we're addressing within the code.
Right, within
We're
the
not there
zoning
yet,
code,
but
yeah.
we're
Absolutely.
working on it.
Within the,
Within the code.
within the code.
Yes.
I would be, to answer Ted's question, I would be very happy with apartment complexes 240 feet in the air right next to the interstate, because that would give us some high density developments that would provide us some affordable housing options for people inside of the traffic zone and away, and pull all of that congestion out of the city proper. I think that would be an excellent idea. And our soil is very rigid and would support that structure on the north side of I-12.
And without having underground sewage available.
I know where I'm at.
Without having the underground sewage available, this is, I mean, the job of this commission, I think we do a good job at trying to protect this parish from foreseen incidents that we know is gonna storm in May, is gonna come down to hurricanes during hurricane season. Why put something there that's gonna hurt us? And so that's something that I know we work on, because we kind of look to each other and say, hey, you know this
Pumping
area?
station.
But then we get stuck like, hey, the permit's done, they're already in, and this development is going up. But we need to know the tools to.
So always keep these three words in the back of your mind when you're thinking about
Health, safety, and welfare.
Health, safety, and welfare. Absolutely.
So, Nelwyn and I discussed.
After the commission, after council does their appointments to the commission, we're going to do training again. So I'm not going to do it. I was going to do it earlier in the year, but with the council making new appointments, if they make new appointments, we're going to do training as soon as possible after they make their appointments.
So Commissioner McGinnis and I were involved with the, I think is it called the Perilou subdivision over there off of 1077?
1085? I don't know.
Providence Park.
Thank you. I knew it would start with a P. Providence Park. I met with Ted, like really kind of did an in-depth study of the floodplain, brought up elevated foundations to the developer, and they're like, oh, we just don't want to build that because people don't want it. And I'm like, well, I mean, there's whole quarters of St. Tammany Parish, built on the lakefront that are all on elevated and not pylons either. Chain walls. There's lots of different ways to do it, but they just wouldn't hear it. So I would challenge my fellow commissioners to use these tools in situations like that. We have to stand strong against the perceived misconceptions that the developer has on what people will and won't. If they have a house available in St. Tammany, somebody's going to buy it, right?
Especially one that won't flood because they did it correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's built correct.
Won't flood because we built it up.
Flood insurance.
Yeah.
So, I would like to ask, we have that green development document that you had done. I'd like to see incentives for using those guidelines. They're out there, but since they've been out there, I don't think I've seen, there's one developer.
Crosby.
Yeah.
But other than that, I have not seen anybody.
So right now, the way it is in the code, and I say right now, the code that we're currently using for July 1 has one zoning classification, AML, that requires a low impact development study before, and present it to the parish for review before they set up their development. We use that AML as a test case, but we don't get a lot of AML development. So we've gone back, we're looking at it, and it's going to be added to the incentives for this.
Good,
Yeah.
good, because I think
And a lot of those incentives
and
are drawn from that book already.
and elevated housing, maybe that needs to be incentivized, because we're getting
That'd be
nowhere with that. We're just getting nowhere.
I have a logic question too, and Ellen actually brought this point up. I wanted to just expound on it. The parish is pretty much almost parish-wide. It's a zero net fill area, correct? No?
I'll defer to engineering on that one.
So it's not zero net fill?
Not Parish, no, sir.
Really? Okay, so where's the zero net fill zone at?
Any critical drainage area, area of special concern, or flood zone A that is currently mapped.
So anywhere else, because I was like, because when I ran a construction company, that was like a problem almost everywhere. And I knew that, I mean, it was, zero net fill, I mean, like all along everywhere we were building just about. So I was wondering how we could like put a foot of fill around an existing tree and kill it when we have a zero net fill almost in so many areas. You're not allowed to put fill on the lot. So how do we?
You dig a lot of holes.
So it's not, you can't put any fill on the lot, it's that you're moving it around.
We still have a hole that you have to deal with.
That hole is the opposite. Like Providence Park, for example, that did get some leeway with the fact that they went up 2 foot after reviewing a whole lot of the studies, reviewing the gauge data, reviewing historical flood data. They went up, but their went up is still filling that property. So they're filling that property, and the no net fill you're referring to, they are required by ordinance to mitigate that fill on site, when there's in some cases off site. So that bowl you're talking about is where the flood zone will flood to, and we intend the water to go there. That's how they plan to mitigate the offset and impacts of the flooding. As opposed to now, the proposal is raise the home and let it flood where it usually floods underneath your home. They're redirecting that flood to within that same flood zone.
Gotcha.
On that property. So it is no net fill, but it is not no filling on the site. So there is a
Gotcha.
distinction there. Yes, sir.
Just dig a hole someplace else and cover up the
That's
tree
currently
in another
my
place.
concern with the ordinance says
Gotcha.
right now, and that's what is, there's a lot of things being reviewed into how we modify that, manipulate that, and move forward with something that we hear time and time again. It's not going, ignore it, I promise you that.
No. I just just curious how we overlay those two things.
Where fill is allowed, coastal zones, you are allowed to fill the coastal once you get core permits, coastal use permits, you want to fill there to break up surges. It really, we have a very unique, diverse parish. Well, further up you go in Folsom, there's a lot of other different criteria there. You got hills in Folsom that you could only dream of in Maine.
I think we've covered the major areas that we have, that we get questioned on by the public, and I move to adjourn.
We'll move to recommend approval of these amendments.
I do have a question. Do you want to say something else?
No.
You don't want to change what your motion you just made?
Yeah, I'll move to approve them.
Okay.
Let me ask you this, Emily, if there are things
But this is still a work in progress. This
these
is,
items are going to the council as a recommendation, however it goes. In May, I'll be bringing up another set, so it's going to be work in progress till the end of the year probably. If we want to make changes like Mr. Crawford mentioned, like moving an or, does that need to be in a motion for every item, or?
Is that just the only procedural, substantive
Would that
amendment
be-
that you all are looking at?
There were the two. There was the or in section 600-5.1, which was the parking and short term, and the clarification of along the roadway after width related to lot standards to clarify where that buffer requirement would be located. Noting too that we would look at the penalties in the next version.
I mean, I think what you could do is you could just take the note and let that ride till the next version, and we could recommend this to the council, and then the next version would have those reflected.
I mean, what do you think?
I mean, those seem to be clarifying type of amendments. They really don't change the substance of how these are being implemented. So I would be okay with this going to the council with those clarifications accomplished.
That way you can kind of put this to bed and then take up the next items fresh.
Right.
And not feel like you have to revisit everything again.
You did say you were gonna talk about the penalties at the, you're gonna bring the penalties in on the.
Yeah, we can pull the.
By May, I should be able to do that.
Yeah.
You've got the fill line to the.
Yes, I did. I have it in here, but I'm gonna mark it on here too,
Yeah,
the
that's
fill
more
line.
I'd
Clarification.
say that's clarification, because we had the whole thing in there, just.
No foot would
just
fill.
making sure it's the fill as well.
Yes. around the natural area within 2 feet. I got you.
So what is the action that we need to take?
A vote to the council.
We need a second now.
Okay.
Second.
Who seconds it?
Go.
All right, we got a motion and a second to refer,
Who was the second?
yes.
Including these 3 clarifications.
Okay.
To refer to the council all of the items that we discussed and suggested. Is that correct?
Correct.
Please vote.
Show you were here.
Just so I'm here.
The motion to approve with the cited amendments has passed.
Yep.
I want to make sure everybody understood I wasn't a negative person this evening. I just had to abstain.
Oh, we're getting it. We're getting
Want to make
it.
sure.
We got your number.
I am not an anti.
You're a tough dude.
It's going to be hard to explain that.
Any further discussions?
Can't leave. Not yet. I'll do it again.
Got a motion to,
Make a motion to adjourn and come out of recess in the zoning meeting.
All right, so we have a motion to adjourn the planning commission meeting.
Yes.
Adjourn.
Yes.
I make a motion to rejoin from recess.